Hello, today I'm going to talk about the immune system. I've often had people ask me about poor immunity and they think they've got a poor immune system and what can they do about it. It's obviously a very big subject and I'm just going to cover it from the logical, simple point of view to start with, but you'll have to do your own investigation from there really. Firstly, what are the true signs of a poor immune system? I think you don't want to confuse it with poor energy. I'm feeling tired all the time. That's not necessarily to do with your immune system, that's other things, and we've tackled those in different videos. A poor immune system basically is revealed by, I would say the simplest solution is persistently reoccurring infections or infections that keep popping up where your body doesn't seem to be dealing with infections. A classic simple example of that is herpes. Either the simplex or the gentle variety, where you keep getting an eruption burst, on your lips, a cold sore's coming up, frequent cold sores, frequent mouth ulcers, eruptions basically that keep coming back show that your immune system is usually not coping well, with one or two weird exceptions to that, but I just want to look at it from that point of view. So what do you do about that? Well, I think the first thing to think about if you have a poor immune system is, why is it not good? Why is it poor? Okay, that's very important. You need to, if you don't identify why your immune system is poor, you're not going to solve the problem, no matter what you do. You need to get to the root cause of this issue. So what typical things cause poor immunity? Well, one, poor resources for your body. Okay, so by that I mean nutrition. Now that may sound very grossly oversimplistic, but if you haven't got the building bricks, you can't make a house. It's as simple as that. If you aren't feeding yourself well, then you're not going to have a good immune system, end of story. So you may want to look critically at your diet. Also, you might want to consider doing the nutrition analysis on our website. It's completely free, it's not going to cost you anything other than 5 minutes of your time to find out what nutrients you might be deficient in. The other thing I think is very important to think about here is, are you able to assimilate the nutrients in your diet? As we age, our digestive systems become less and less efficient, which is why when you're 18 you could go out and eat a pizza at 10:30 at night, but when you're 50 you'd eat a pizza and have indigestion. It's because you're not producing enough stomach acid. So very often as we age it becomes more important to think about our nutrition and making sure we can get the nutrients out of our diet. And I'll speak a little bit about, I'll speak about that now. So if you've got particularly poor digestion, for want of a better word, you're not going to get some of the essential minerals you want from your food. So you might want to think about using this stuff, betaine hydrochloride with pepsin. It's a digestive aid in essence to help you get the minerals out of your diet. And if you do take a mineral supplement thinking that'll solve the problems, be cautious, because a lot of mineral supplements don't contain organic fragile molecules. I don't mean organic, no pesticides, I mean organic carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. And these molecules are fragile and they're designed for people with poor digestions and people in my age group to get the nutrients out of the system. So it's like, you want something like zinc picolinate or zinc gluconate or calcium citrate rather than calcium carbonate, which is what you'll get from the doctor. Calcium carbonate, those two molecules are welded together. You'll never break them apart unless you've got the acid of an 18-year-old, basically. So think critically about your nutrition. As I said, if you don't have the resources for your immune system, it's not going to be any good. Okay, so that's that bit. Let's think about the next thing. Is your immune system under constant attack? Okay, now this is very interesting because sometimes we'll have a persistent low-grade infection which is undetectable. And that means you could go to the doctors and you might find raised immune functions like raised ESRs, I'm getting a bit technical, higher levels of big antibody producing white cells. But they're not actually finding out why you've got that. And that's often because there's so many viruses and stuff that aren't actually known about yet, or detectable, or testable, that they won't be found out. And that's where I think it's important to think about what you can do to help your body overcome a persistent low-grade infection. And my favourite tool for that is this, the Beck Zapper. And I've talked about this on numerous occasions, and you'll see another video on it. It basically electrocutes the blood, and everything that floats past those electrodes gets slightly damaged. That includes anything in your blood like viruses, potentially some bacteria, some moulds. You don't tend to get too many of those in the blood, but viruses you do. It makes them slightly weaker and more vulnerable to your immune system. And very often it's the leg up your immune system needs to overcome the numerical battle, because it's like the viruses are reproducing about the rate you're killing them off. So it's status quo, and you tend to go on and on feeling not very well and having poor immune system. It's maybe the very trick you need to get that over that little hill. Okay, so constant attack. I mean, the classic example of somebody under constant attack is somebody with HIV. And I get asked by numerous HIV patients, what do I do about it? Well, I would say you have to think about attacking the virus with the Beck's protocol, but usually an HIV patient's a very complicated person because they've been given all sorts of pressured labels which underdo their psychology, which we'll come to next. But you need to think about this as it's not just one solution to immune system. You need to do all of it at the same time. You've got to give yourself as many supporting factors in your health that you can obtain. And very often, we'll look at the next thing, very often there's some factors which severely undermine it all the time. So let's look at that now. And people don't like this. Psychological factors. Okay, so psychological factors, everybody says, well, what has my mind got to do with my immune system? There is a field of science now called psychoneuroimmunology, which explores the link between the psyche and the immune system. And you can now put somebody in experimental conditions, you can put them under stress, and you can watch their white cell counts drop and their antibody levels drop. So if you're in any doubt that your mind hasn't something to do with your immune system, dismiss that now, because it does. It's fundamentally important. In fact, I'd probably put this at almost the top of my list in terms of things to do. So if you have a lot of psychological stress in your life, or psychological factors, you've got to address them. If you don't, your health won't improve, I promise you. My classic thing in this that I'd like to say is, if you have a mood hoover in your life, get them out of your life. A mood hoover is somebody who comes into your room, sits down and sucks all the energy out of you. It's almost like their purpose is to make you feel as negative as possible, right? That's a mood hoover. You don't want to be in their presence. It's not going to do your health any good. So if you live with a mood hoover, unlive with them, okay? I don't care what that costs you financially or practically. If you want your health to be better, you're going to have to remove that mood hoover. I'm sorry. But there are other things. I'm being a bit glib here, but there's so many things that can actually fundamentally affect your psychology that I would say it's very important, if you are, shall we say, psychologically compromised on a long-term basis, your confidence is low, your mood is low, you need support. You need to see a counsellor regular, or you need to chat with a good friend on a really regular basis. You need to offload, and then you need to change your circumstances. I can't emphasise that enough. The number of patients I see for years and years and years, I know why they're ill. It's because they need to change their circumstances, and they don't change their circumstances and they carry on going downhill. Very often they need to get to the bottom of the hill before they recognise it's time to change, and sometimes that's expensive on their health. So I would argue you've got to be honest with yourself. Of the psychological factors destroying your psyche, for want of a better word, change them. You'll never be well until you do. Okay, that's a very big field. And there's a lot in it, but you need to identify these things yourself. There are a few things we can do to actually boost your immune system, and by boost I mean that very loosely. But, for example, in terms of stimulating, let's use that word, it's a much better thing to do, stimulating an immune system that may be a bit sluggish, provided you've addressed all of this, okay? So if you haven't addressed this, there's no point in stimulating your immune system. You've got to do that first. The first thing we've heard of time and time and time again is echinacea. Okay, echinacea capsules, okay, says on the bottle, take with food. That's because echinacea in this country is sold as a food supplement. That's the very last thing you want to do. You want to take it as a herbal medicine. That means 2 hours after eating and then nothing to eat for half an hour. And I would take 3 capsules a day, okay? And what this stuff does, echinacea, is it makes your white cells, if you've got them, aggressive. It doesn't make more white cells. It doesn't stimulate white cell production. It makes the ones you've got cross. This is great news if you want to fight an infection. However, people, if you have an autoimmune disease, rheumatoid arthritis, something like that, or an inflammatory disease, don't take echinacea. You don't want to make an aggressive immune system even more aggressive. Does that make sense? Hope so. So that's echinacea. The other thing we know has great benefits to the immune system is zinc. And my favourite zinc is picolinate. It's a nice organic picolinate, fragile molecule, easy to digest when you get to my age. Take one after your main meal of the day. This is as cheap as chips, this stuff, relatively speaking. There's 100 days in here for a little over £8. After the main meal of the day. What does zinc do? Well, zinc is important to the thymus gland. The thymus gland is what produces the T cells, okay? And very often when the thymus gland is low on zinc, and I have to say that's quite common these days, the thymus gland slows down its production rate of T cells. So what the zinc will do is make the thymus gland produce more T cells, which is what you want. They're the white cells that fight infections. Okay, those are two simple, stimulating, cheap options. There are loads more, which I'm not going to talk about in this video because obviously we've got restricted time. But this is the general things I want you to think about in terms of making your health better. One more thing that we used, dear old magnetic pulsar, we found that stimulates cell division and immune system, providing you're addressing these first 3 points. Resources, no house, remember that. Constant knocking the house down, house ain't going to get built. So again, you need to stop the attack on the house. And if there's somebody coming along undermining your confidence in that building process, that's not going to work either. Need to address those, then you can do these, and then you will get well. So any questions in the back there? Gosh, double silence, I'm impressed. Okay, well, I wish you all well, and please join the YouTube, please subscribe to YouTube, and I wish you all good health.